Have you ever blamed somebody else? Have you ever justified why you did something? Have you ever made an excuse? It's not my fault. Yes, me too. I'm an old lady and I've done that many times in my life. But I'm very privileged that at a very young age, I was told by the Managing Health Club in Sydney, Australia at the time. I was 18 years of age. And one of my members was a psychiatrist, and a very harsh psychiatrist. And she said, everything that happens in your life, Rowie, is your responsibility. And we were having a conversation with a group of members at the health club. So she put it very harshly. If you're fat, you ate it. If you're broke, you spent it. If you're in a lousy, stinking, rotten job, you interviewed into it. If you're in a bad relationship, you chose to be there. Whether it's your family or your partner or your friends, you're choosing to have those people in your life. So take responsibility for the way your life is. And a lot of people were very uncomfortable with those comments and probably found her to be offensive. I was 18 at the time and I thought, wow, that makes a lot of sense to me. So there are some things that we have no control over and they're not our fault, but we still have to take responsibility for them. And how we respond or react, so I am responsible, I can respond to that particular situation, or I can react, get stressed, get angry, get annoyed. Why would you do that if you've got no control over it? So I use the example, I live in the South Island of New Zealand. We have very wild weather here. Today we've had some gusts of wind between 150 and 160 kilometres an hour. It's making a mess. I have no control over the wind, so why would I get angry about it? I've chosen to live here, so I have to take responsibility. And this is just an obvious. When we got our architectural and engineering bill, there was a big bill for wind engineering because we live in a very windy place. Now, for me to think that it's bad that outside it's windy today would be ridiculous because I've chosen to live here knowing that it's windy. So when things are wrecked by the wind, it's not my fault, the wind did it, but I have to take responsibility for that, and today I have to go outside and clean up some mess because things are blown away. I'm just using that as a very simple example that sometimes, or most of the time, and if you are an adult, and I was taught that at a very young age, that if you are mature, you will take responsibility for everything that happens in your life, then if that's a sign of maturity, then rather than making excuses, blaming other people, wishing it didn't happen, well, it did happen, so now I've got to fix it. Even if it wasn't my fault, I have to go and fix it. So those harsh statements, if I'm fat, I ate it, it might sound harsh. And there's a lot of people making excuses for, I didn't mean to eat it, or I've got a disease and that's the reason I ate it, or I'm stressed, or my hormones are out of control. Well, let's just say that's true, and I'll ask the question, if you're healthy, fit and strong, will you have a healthy, fit, strong hormonal system, endocrine system? So when somebody blames, and often people do, and they have my whole career path, it's my hormones, it's not my fault. My answer is always, would you like to be in control of your hormones rather than your hormones controlling you? See, that's taking responsibility. My hormones are not my fault. Is that true? I always ask this question now about whatever disease or illness or sickness or injury or anything that's ever happened in your life physically. If you are healthy, if you're fit and if you're strong, and let's just use fit and strong, are you less likely to get sick, get diseases? If you do get a bad luck disease or illness, are you more likely to A, not be sick for long, B, get rid of it quicker, and C, it never comes back again? That's called taking responsibility. If I jump out of a plane and I hurt myself, I have to take responsibility that I originally took the risk. It's risky to jump out of planes. It's risky to race cars and bikes. It's risky to go out in freezing cold weather and go hiking in the mountains. So if I do things like that, I have to take responsibility that Mother Nature might affect what I'm doing. And I'm using all of those as examples because I want our kids to grow up as responsible adults. What do you think? I don't want our kids blaming the government, blaming their parents, blaming their next door neighbours, there's so many things and people and experiences we can blame. But if again, I'm very privileged, I was taught this at such a young age, whatever happens to me, take responsibility. Response-able. So I can respond rather than react, and I can say, okay, this happened to me. What do I need to do to become tougher, stronger, better, wiser because of it? What have I learned from it so it never happens again? So there's people who have had their house burnt down, or they've been flooded, or they've a cyclone or a tornado or an earthquake. We get to choose where we live. We get to choose the kind of insurance we have. We get to choose how we live our life. So if you live in the bush in Australia, for example, it's very likely that your house will get burnt down by a bushfire. That's just a common thing in Australia, for example. If you live in New Zealand, there's earthquakes in New Zealand. So, well, why do you live there? Well, you get to choose. That is your responsibility to take the appropriate insurances, build the appropriate home, all of those things. I don't want to be a person who blames or justifies or makes excuses. I want to be a person who is an adult, who is mature, and our kids can look at and say, she doesn't blame anybody, she doesn't whinge, moan and complain, she just gets on with it. In martial arts, they call it walk it off. If you get hurt in martial arts, walk it off, because you're doing martial arts. It's not if you're going to get injured, it's probably when, because you're doing a high risk sport. It's making you tougher, stronger, wiser and better, which means you may have an injury you have to get over. That's taking responsibility. So whatever's happening in your life right now, why did it happen? If it's awesome, congratulations, take responsibility that your life is amazing. And if terrible things are happening in your life right now, rather than blaming and justifying and getting angry, why not look at how did it happen? How can I stop it from happening again? How can I get through this and become a tougher, better, wiser, stronger person? Could they be great questions to ask so that you can live your life to the max as a healthy, fit, strong, happy human being? Live your life to the max. Woohoo!